I remember the first time I saw this, and it's actually mounted under the bottom of a M16. I'm going to pick up the box here, and this is it. This is the Less Lethal Launcher. You see it says FN Manufacturing, but we'll see how much of this really was Tom and Airgun Design's work. Now this particular gun came to me by way of eBay. And a very good friend of mine, Jason Beam, actually found them on eBay, and one gun was sold that he bought, and then I called the guy that he bought the gun from and was able to buy a second. Believe it or not, these guns were used in the filming of the TV movie SWAT. And then afterwards, the stagehands got their hands on these guns and sold them on eBay, which is how it became mine. Very, very interesting piece of equipment. Let's start by opening the box. Okay, that's the box. I'm going to put it down and we'll go through it in a little more detail. Now, whoops. First thing, as he picks up parts from the floor, we should go through is the manual. Now, this is a very serious piece of equipment. It'll shoot an 8-ounce plus projectile at over 400-450 feet per second. So for that, there really has to be some significant training. In the box, you get the manual. Here is the manual. Hopefully you guys can read that. Attention, there is no owner-operator manual in this package. That's the manual. Pretty much telling you, don't use it unless you're trained and you know what you're doing with it. Unfortunately, this is a less lethal launcher, but it's still quite a significant piece of equipment. Okay, so there goes the manual. Alright. Now they dropped all the parts on the floor, so it's going to make it interesting putting it together. Okay, first piece, front grip, secondary stage grip and the trigger, magazine well, and a rail system along the top, connection for the compressed gas, and you can actually see the start of what looks like an auto mag valve in the back there. Now, when I first saw this gun, this was actually mounted underneath an M16, and I believe it's still designed so you can actually do this. This will line up with the magazine of the M16. There's the safety. And you can run it that way, but it also can be standalone. And to use it in the standalone configuration, you have the stock system and pistol grip, and you'll take the valving assembly, slide it on, snap it into place. There you go. Then you'll take the compressed air cylinder, and this will simply fit into the well on the side. Oh, on the bottom side, you do it at the bottom. Try and get it on the camera. And then it would help if I'm not trying to put it on backwards. It's been a while since I played with this. Here you go. Goes in at the top and snaps at the bottom. So the tank points forwards along the side of the gun. It has been a while since I actually got this out of the box and put it together. So you can see it assembled like so. Then this hose connection is going to come and connect into the back with a quick release. And what you'll do very simply is just turn the gas on and it's filled, ready to go. And it's 3000 psi fill on the tank system there. You have flip up sights. There's the rear one. There's the front one. And that's what it looks like from the wrong end. And that's kind of what it looks like from the correct end. I don't actually have any gas in here. I made sure it was empty before I started messing with it. Okay. Then what we get for the magazines, and that will simply slide up into location with the clear part facing the back so you can see it, and it locks into place. Then you have a magazine release button on the front underneath here. You'll push that and the magazine slides out. You put it back in and it clips into place. Okay? Now the magazines are spring loaded. What you'll do is you'll wind this backwards and then load a projectile, wind it backwards, load a projectile, wind it backwards, load a projectile, until you fill the drum complete with projectiles, and each time a projectile gets fired out, the magazine will rotate until the next projectile is in place, and you're good to go. A few other things I have in the package. You get a barrel cleaning device, not quite sure why that's needed. You get launcher lube, oil. And then what I also have is some fin stabilized projectiles. Can you see those? They kind of look like the ghosts out of Pac-Man, don't they? Now, it's actually quite difficult to buy the correct projectiles for this system. And they come with CS gas, indelible paint, washable paint, water, all kinds of different fills, as well as a front that's made from bismuth, which makes it very heavy and very accurate. You can shoot these things at 450 feet per second out of this gun, and there's a steel door at the end of Airgun Designs that attests to the amount of energy in these, a steel door with fist-sized impacts from these projectiles. Now these ones, hopefully, can you see it? I couldn't actually buy any of the projectiles. I was very lucky in that somebody completely unrelated to Airgun Designs gave me one of the paint projectiles, and I reverse engineered it and then made these on a rapid prototyping machine. These are made of solid nylon, and I found out that making them out of solid nylon doesn't give you the same accuracy as the original projectiles, and I ended up making some where I actually sank a ball bearing into the front to weight the front, and they work significantly better. But I shot all of those, so I don't have any left right now. And this is how the projectile looks. And what you imagine is that the paint will be in this tip up the front, and then the fins on the back of it actually interact with the air to create spin, stabilize the projectile, and make it much, much more accurate, which is pretty cool. The reason we don't have those in paintball is because people got used to high rounds capacities on their loaders, 200 rounds, that kind of thing. And when you actually have to have an individual projectile loaded correctly, you end up with relatively small capacities like these, and I think this is 15 rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, 15 rounds. So you imagine with the guns that we shoot nowadays, 15 balls per second, you'd be going through one of these every second, which is kind of why we've moved away from that concept, although it might be cool to move back towards it someday. So, there's the full gun, FN303. I'll break it back down for you. Turn the gas off. It's on when it's straight, it's off. Nicely marked on the side of the regulator there. Disconnect the quick release. You'll push the release on the bottom of the gas. It just comes off. Okay, and then there's a release button here on the side of the gun, and you'll push that. When you push that, stock slides away. Gives you that component that can be mounted to all sorts of different guns. Gives you the stock. We'll go away in the box. Now this piece, there's a lovely warning on it that says keep hands out, because this is where the bolt comes across. And if anyone's stuck their finger in the way of an automag bolt, knows how much that hurts. Now imagine it working at higher pressures and shooting at about 400 plus feet per second. It hurts. I accidentally managed to put my finger in there. It really does hurt, not recommended, so keep your fingers out of there. And in the back here, what you have, in essence, and you can see where we're coming through to the airline connection, you can see how that's familiar, is an automag valve. Now it's actually a longer bolt, a heavier spring, a spring that we kind of saw come out in the level 10 bolt kit, that square wire, but I believe it's a little bit longer. Longer bolt stroke to make sure that it can cycle across this full breech, load one of those projectiles and fire it properly. And pretty much that's the guts of it. Safety, blocks the trigger, you push the safety out of the way and you can pull the trigger. And it's just working the sear very similar to the automag concept that so many of us know and love. So that is a brief tour through the FN303. A lot more history than that, and I'm sure Tom can tell you way more stories, but a very cool gun. You can shoot paintballs out of it. I know Tom adapted one of his to shoot paintballs at under 300 feet per second. I have shot paint out of this one, and it was around about 340, 350, so I only shot it on a target range. You have to be a little bit careful because the spring-loaded magazine system, if you're not using very strong, very robust paint, it can end up crushing the ball between those drive pieces because the spring is quite heavy. So you have to be careful what paint you shoot, but you can shoot paint out of it. And maybe if I can modify the gun so that I'm not shooting over 300 feet per second, I might take it out and play some big game or some scenario event with it someday. I know Tom's done that, and it's a pretty cool piece. Any questions? Post them up. I'll try to answer them. If I can't, or if it's stuff that I probably shouldn't be talking about, then I'm afraid I won't. Thanks a lot for watching.